Some creatures were never meant to exist. Born from chaos, fear, and the darkest corners of human imagination, these legendary beasts haunted the world of ancient Greece. From monsters that could turn men to stone, to creatures guarding the gates of the underworld, their stories survived for thousands of years. Today, you're about to discover the most terrifying beasts in Greek mythology. Hydra. The Hydra appears in one of the most famous episodes tied to the 12 labors of Heracles. King Eurystheus ordered Heracles to destroy the monstrous beast that lived in the swamps of Lerna, a region feared by travelers and associated with death and hidden entrances to the underworld. Ancient Greeks believed the marsh itself carried a cursed presence, which helped shape the terrifying reputation of the creature. Legends describe the Hydra as a gigantic serpent with many heads, poisonous breath and blood so deadly that even touching it could kill. Some stories claimed that whenever one head was severed, two more would grow in its place. The tale likely emerged from ancient fears surrounding disease-filled swamps and creatures impossible to defeat through ordinary means. Writers and storytellers transformed those anxieties into a supernatural monster that symbolized unstoppable danger. During the myth, Heracles finally defeated it by burning the necks after cutting the heads, preventing them from regenerating. The Hydra served as a guardian of forbidden lands and represented chaos that multiplied when confronted recklessly. It also became a symbol of resilience and recurring evil in later literature and art. Cerberus. Deep within the realm ruled by Hades stood Cerberus, the terrifying hound tasked with guarding the gates of the dead. The creature appears in several myths, though it is especially remembered in the final labor of Heracles, who had to capture the beast alive and bring it to the surface world. Ancient storytellers used Cerberus to emphasize that no mortal could freely escape death once they crossed into the underworld. The monster was commonly imagined as a massive black dog with 3 savage heads, glowing eyes, rows of sharp teeth, and a serpent for a tail. Some accounts even added snakes growing from its back and mane. The legend probably evolved from old burial traditions and humanity's fear of what waits after death. Dogs were often linked with cemeteries and guardianship in ancient cultures, making Cerberus a natural symbol of the boundary between life and the afterlife. Rather than hunting humans across the earth, Cerberus functioned as a supernatural jailer. Its role was to prevent souls from escaping and to stop the living from entering sacred realms without permission. The beast became one of mythology's clearest symbols of eternal vigilance and the inevitability of death. Minotaur. The story of the Minotaur unfolds on the island of Crete, inside the vast labyrinth built by the inventor Daedalus. According to myth, King Minos kept the creature hidden beneath his palace after it was born from a curse sent by the gods. The monster became central to the tragic tale of Athenian youths sacrificed to satisfy Minos until the hero Theseus entered the maze to confront it. Ancient descriptions portrayed the Minotaur with the muscular body of a man combined with the head and horns of a savage bull. Its enormous strength and animal rage made it one of the most feared beings in Greek legend. The myth likely developed from the importance of bull worship in Minoan civilization, where bulls appeared in ceremonies and artwork across Crete. Over time, Greek storytellers transformed those cultural symbols into a terrifying hybrid creature hidden underground. The Minotaur's purpose in mythology was closely tied to punishment and fear. It acted as a devourer of human sacrifices and embodied uncontrolled violence trapped within civilization itself. The endless maze surrounding it also symbolized confusion, imprisonment, and the struggle to overcome inner darkness. Medusa. Among the 3 dreaded Gorgons of Greek mythology, Medusa became the most famous because, unlike her immortal sisters, she could be killed. Her story is connected to the hero Perseus, who was sent to retrieve her head as a deadly trophy. Ancient tales placed her dwelling near the edge of the known world, in a distant and cursed land feared by mortals. Poets and artists imagined Medusa as a terrifying woman with living snakes instead of hair, bronze claws, glowing eyes, and a gaze capable of turning any living creature into stone instantly. Early legends may have originated from protective symbols used in Greek culture. Faces resembling Medusa were painted on shields, temples, and armor to frighten away evil spirits and enemies. Over centuries, her image evolved into one of mythology's most recognizable monsters. Medusa occupied the role of both destroyer and guardian. Her petrifying stare made her a deadly threat, yet her severed head later became a protective weapon wielded by Perseus and eventually placed upon Athena's shield. Unlike many monsters, later traditions also portrayed her as tragic, cursed by divine punishment rather than born purely evil. Pegasus. The winged horse Pegasus entered Greek mythology through the dramatic death of Medusa. According to legend, when Perseus severed Medusa's head, Pegasus sprang forth from her blood alongside another being named Chrysaor. The miraculous horse later became closely linked with heroes, poets, and even the gods of Olympus. Stories described Pegasus as a magnificent white stallion with enormous feathered wings capable of carrying him across the skies faster than storms. Ancient artists often surrounded the creature with divine light and heavenly beauty. The origins of Pegasus may have come from ancient attempts to explain the connection between horses, storms, and the heavens. In several myths, the creature struck the earth with its hoof to create magical springs, especially the sacred Hippocrene fountain associated with artistic inspiration. Rather than serving as a monster, Pegasus represented freedom, divine power, and heroic destiny. The creature famously aided the hero Bellerophon during his battle against the Chimera, allowing him to attack from the air. Pegasus eventually ascended to the heavens and became a constellation, turning the legendary horse into an eternal symbol of imagination and glory. Chimera. The Chimera appears in the myth surrounding the hero Bellerophon, who was ordered to destroy the creature after it ravaged the lands of Lycia. Ancient Greeks viewed the beast as one of the deadliest offspring of Typhon and Echidna, two monstrous figures associated with chaos and destruction. Villages supposedly lived in terror as the Chimera burned fields and slaughtered livestock. Legends claimed the Chimera possessed the body and head of a lion, a second goat head rising from its back, and a serpent forming its tail. Many versions added that it breathed streams of fire from its jaws. The creature's legend may have developed from travelers witnessing volcanic regions where flames burst from rocky mountainsides. Such natural phenomena could easily inspire tales of a fire-breathing beast hidden among cliffs and caves. In mythology, the Chimera functioned as a symbol of unnatural horror and unstoppable ruin. Its mixed form represented disorder in nature itself, combining several dangerous animals into one terrifying predator. The battle against the Chimera highlighted heroic courage, especially because Bellerophon defeated it from the skies while riding Pegasus, overcoming brute savagery with strategy and divine aid. Cyclops. The Cyclops are woven into several layers of Greek mythology, ranging from the age of the Titans to the adventures of Odysseus. Some traditions described them as divine blacksmiths who forged Zeus's thunderbolts, while later stories portrayed them as savage giants living apart from civilization. The most famous Cyclops, Polyphemus, appears in the Odyssey when Odysseus and his crew become trapped inside the giant's cave. Ancient accounts presented the Cyclopes as enormous humanoid beings with immense strength and a single round eye set in the center of the forehead. Their appearance was both primitive and terrifying. The myth may have originated from discoveries of prehistoric elephant skulls, whose large nasal cavity could resemble one gigantic eye socket to ancient observers unfamiliar with extinct animals. Combined with fears of isolated tribes and wilderness dangers, the image of the Cyclops became legendary. Depending on the story, Cyclopes served different roles. Some acted as divine craftsmen working for the gods, while others became brutal man-eaters who ignored sacred laws of hospitality. Through Polyphemus, Greek mythology explored themes of arrogance, survival, and the dangers waiting beyond the boundaries of civilized society. Sphinx. Travelers approaching the city of Thebes faced a horrifying challenge from the Sphinx, a creature sent to punish the region. the monster became central to the legend of Oedipus, who encountered it while journeying toward the city. The Sphinx blocked the roads and demanded that all passers-by solve its famous riddle. Greek storytellers imagined the Sphinx with the body of a lion, the wings of a giant bird, and the head of a woman whose face concealed both beauty and menace. The creature's origins were influenced by older Near Eastern and Egyptian traditions involving hybrid guardian beings placed near temples and tombs. Greek mythology reshaped that idea into a darker and more dangerous figure associated with intellect and doom. Its role extended beyond simple violence. The Sphinx preyed upon those unable to answer its riddle, making it both a killer and a tester of wisdom. By defeating the creature through intelligence rather than force, Oedipus temporarily liberated Thebes. The myth turned the Sphinx into a lasting symbol of mystery, hidden knowledge, and the deadly consequences of ignorance. Harpy. The Harpies appear throughout Greek mythology as servants of divine punishment, often carrying out the will of the gods against mortals who offended Olympus. One of their most memorable appearances occurs in the story of King Phineus. A blind prophet cursed so that Harpies constantly stole or ruined his food before he could eat. Legends portrayed the Harpies as terrifying creatures with the bodies of huge birds and the faces of women. Their claws were sharp enough to tear flesh, and their presence was associated with foul smells and violent winds. Many scholars believe the myth emerged from ancient attempts to explain destructive storm gusts and sudden disappearances. Their very name is connected to the idea of snatching or seizing, which reflects how quickly they descended upon victims. Unlike monsters guarding treasures or caves, Harpies functioned as agents of torment and retribution. They punished the guilty by denying comfort, peace, and nourishment. In several tales, they represented unavoidable suffering sent by divine forces. Despite their frightening appearance, they were not always independent villains, since they usually operated under the commands of greater gods. Their blend of wind spirit and predator gave them a unique place among Greek mythological creatures. Sirens. Sailors crossing dangerous seas feared the Sirens, whose enchanting voices lured ships toward destruction. These creatures are especially remembered in the Odyssey, where Odysseus ordered his crew to block their ears with wax while he listened to the irresistible song, tied to forbidden knowledge and temptation. Ancient Greek art often showed the Sirens as part woman and part bird, with feathered bodies, wings, and hauntingly beautiful human faces. Later traditions gradually transformed them into mermaid-like beings connected with the sea. Their legend may have emerged from the real dangers sailors faced near rocky coastlines where storms, hidden reefs, and strong currents destroyed vessels unexpectedly. Storytellers gave those deadly waters a supernatural explanation through creatures whose music clouded judgment. The Sirens occupied the role of seducers and destroyers. Rather than attacking directly, they manipulated desire and curiosity, drawing victims willingly toward death. Their songs promised wisdom, comfort, or hidden truths, making resistance nearly impossible. In mythology, they became symbols of temptation powerful enough to overcome reason itself. The encounter with Odysseus also highlighted the importance of discipline and self-control when facing seductive but dangerous forces. Scylla. Scylla haunted one side of a narrow sea passage opposite the whirlpool Charybdis, creating one of the deadliest routes in Greek mythology. Her terrifying presence is described in the Odyssey during Odysseus's return voyage from Troy. Sailors trying to avoid one danger often drifted too close to the other, ensuring tragedy either way. The legends spoke of Scylla as a monstrous sea creature with multiple snapping dog heads emerging from her body, long serpent-like necks, and rows of sharp teeth capable of tearing sailors apart instantly. Some ancient traditions claimed Scylla was once a beautiful maiden transformed into a monster through jealousy and divine magic. Coastal communities likely used the myth to explain violent sea rocks and sudden shipwrecks near dangerous straits. Scylla acted as an ambush predator and devourer of men. Hidden among cliffs, she seized sailors directly from passing ships with horrifying speed. Her role in mythology represented unavoidable loss and impossible choices, since escaping her often meant moving closer to Charybdis. Together, the two monsters embodied the constant dangers of sea travel and the cruel balance between competing disasters. Charybdis. Opposite Scylla lurked Charybdis, a monstrous force hidden beneath the waters of a deadly channel feared by ancient sailors. Greek mythology places the creature in the Odyssey, where Odysseus must carefully navigate between destruction on both sides. Unlike Scylla, which attacked physically, Charybdis threatened entire ships through overwhelming natural power. Ancient storytellers described Charybdis as a gigantic sea monster hidden beneath the surface, swallowing massive quantities of water before violently spewing them back out to create catastrophic whirlpools. The myth likely originated from real maritime hazards, where strong currents and tidal movements formed dangerous spirals capable of wrecking vessels. Sailors transformed these terrifying waters into the image of a living creature consuming the sea itself. Charybdis served as a destroyer of ships and a representation of nature's uncontrollable fury. It was less a creature with personality and more a force of annihilation that consumed everything nearby. In literature, the monster became associated with impossible decisions and narrow survival. The expression about choosing between Scylla and Charybdis eventually came to symbolize being trapped between two equally disastrous outcomes. Typhon. Among all creatures in Greek mythology, Typhon stood as one of the greatest enemies ever faced by the Olympian gods. Ancient traditions describe him as a monstrous being born from Gaia and Tartarus after the defeat of the Titans. Furious at the rise of Zeus, Typhon launched a catastrophic assault against Olympus itself, nearly overthrowing divine rule. The stories painted Typhon as a colossal monster whose body towered beyond mountains, with hundreds of serpent heads, blazing eyes, massive wings, and voices capable of sounding like animals, storms, and roaring fire all at once. The legend may have emerged from humanity's fear of volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, hurricanes, and other violent natural disasters. Typhon embodied every destructive force the ancient world could imagine, combined into a single terrifying entity. Rather than merely hunting mortals, Typhon represented pure chaos and cosmic destruction. He was portrayed as the father of many famous monsters, including Cerberus, the Hydra, and the Chimera, making him a source of monstrous evil throughout mythology. Zeus ultimately defeated him with thunderbolts and imprisoned him beneath mountains, where some myths claimed his rage still caused volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. Echidna. Hidden deep within caves beneath the earth, Echidna was known in Greek mythology as the terrifying mother of monsters. She appears in ancient traditions alongside Typhon, her monstrous companion, and together they produced many of the deadly creatures that later challenged gods and heroes alike. Ancient writers described Echidna as half beautiful woman and half enormous serpent. Her upper body appeared human and alluring, while below the waist stretched the coils of a gigantic snake. The legend likely evolved from ancient fears connected to serpents, caves, and hidden dangers lurking underground. Snakes often symbolized both death and mystery in Mediterranean cultures, making Echidna a fitting source for future horrors. Unlike wandering beasts that attacked cities directly, Echidna occupied a more symbolic role within mythology. She functioned as a creator and ancestor of monsters, giving birth to beings such as Cerberus, Orthrus, the Chimera, and the Hydra. Her existence tied many myths together by providing a shared origin for some of Greece's most feared creatures. Echidna also represented the union of seduction and danger. Her partly human appearance contrasted with her monstrous nature, reinforcing the idea that evil could hide beneath beauty and temptation. Nemean Lion. The Nemean Lion terrorized the region around Nemea until it became the target of the first labor assigned to Heracles. Villagers lived in fear as the beast attacked humans and livestock, while remaining impossible to kill with ordinary weapons. The creature's defeat marked the beginning of Heracles' legendary trials. Myths describe the Nemean Lion as an enormous golden beast with claws sharper than blades and fur so strong that no spear, arrow, or sword could pierce it. The story may have developed from tales about unusually dangerous lions that once roamed parts of ancient Greece and nearby regions. Over time, oral traditions transformed the predator into a supernatural creature immune to mortal attacks. The lion's role in mythology centered on domination and invincibility. It acted as a relentless hunter that no warrior could overcome through conventional means. Heracles eventually strangled the beast with his bare hands, proving his extraordinary strength. Afterward, he wore the lion's skin as armor, turning the symbol of terror into a symbol of heroic victory. The Nemean Lion represented untamed savagery and the challenge of overcoming threats that seem impossible. Its myth reinforced the idea that true heroes succeed not only through weapons, but through courage and endurance. Centaur. The centaurs were said to inhabit the wild mountains and forests of Thessaly, where they lived far from the order of civilized cities. Greek mythology often connected them with untamed nature, violent feasts, and uncontrolled instincts. One famous episode involving the centaurs took place during the wedding of Pirith House, when drunken centaurs attacked the guests and attempted to abduct women, triggering a brutal battle known as the Centauromachy. Ancient storytellers imagined the centaurs as beings with the upper body of a man, joined to the body and legs of a powerful horse. Their appearance blended human intelligence with animal strength and impulse. The legend may have emerged from early societies encountering skilled horse riders for the first time. To people unfamiliar with mounted warriors, horse and rider together could appear almost like a single creature. Most centaurs symbolized chaos, excess, and primal behavior, though a few exceptions existed. Chiron, for example, was wise and noble, serving as a teacher to heroes. In general, centaurs represented the struggle between civilization and wild instinct, showing how easily reason could collapse when consumed by violence, lust, or drunkenness. Satyr. Satyrs wandered through forests, hills, and sacred groves in the myths surrounding Dionysus, accompanying the god during festivals, celebrations, and ecstatic rituals. Ancient Greeks associated these creatures with music, dancing, wine, and the untamed pleasures of nature. Satyrs frequently appeared in stories involving drunken revelry and mischievous encounters with travelers or nymphs. Legends described satyrs as part man and part goat, usually with shaggy legs, hooves, pointed ears, tails, and rough features that reflected their wild existence. Their origins likely came from fertility traditions and rural nature, spirits worshipped long before classical Greek mythology fully developed. Communities connected them with the forests and the instinctive side of human behavior. Unlike monsters that guarded treasures or devoured victims, satyrs embodied temptation, excess, and uncontrolled desire. They often chased nymphs, played flutes, and celebrated endlessly beside Dionysus. Through these creatures, mythology explored humanity's attraction to pleasure and the dangers of surrendering completely to instinct. Despite their crude behavior, satyrs were not always viewed as purely evil. They occupied a strange middle ground between comic figures and dangerous spirits, representing the chaotic energy hidden beneath civilized life. Ladon. Far to the west, within the sacred garden of the Hesperides, Ladon guarded the golden apples prized by the gods. The creature appears in the myths of Heracles, who was tasked with retrieving the apples as one of his labors. The garden itself was considered a divine place hidden at the edge of the world, protected from both mortals and thieves. Ancient tales described Ladon as a gigantic serpent or dragon with multiple heads, coiling endlessly around the sacred tree that bore the golden apples. Some traditions claimed the creature never slept. The legend probably grew from older dragon myths tied to treasure guardianship. Across many ancient cultures, serpents symbolized protection, hidden knowledge, and sacred boundaries. Greek mythology adapted those ideas into Ladon's eternal watch over divine property. Ladon's role was that of a supernatural guardian whose purpose centered entirely on protection and vigilance. Unlike wandering monsters that spread destruction across kingdoms, Ladon remained fixed in one sacred location, ensuring no intruder escaped with the apples of immortality. After the creature's defeat, some stories claimed Hera honored Ladon by placing him among the stars as the constellation Draco, granting the Guardian an eternal place in the heavens. Orthrus. Orthrus appears in Greek mythology as the monstrous sibling of Cerberus and one of the many deadly offspring of Typhon and Echidna. The creature guarded the red cattle of the giant Geryon on the distant island of Erythea, where few mortals dared to travel. During one of his labours, Heracles journeyed there to steal the sacred herd, forcing him to confront the fearsome beast. Stories portrayed Orthrus as a massive two-headed dog with a serpent tail and a savage temperament capable of tearing apart intruders instantly. Some ancient accounts also added snakes growing from its body. The myth likely emerged from the symbolic importance of guard dogs in ancient societies. By exaggerating the animal into a supernatural multi-headed monster, storytellers created the perfect protector for a forbidden land and valuable treasure. Orthrus served primarily as a guardian beast, much like Cerberus. Its task was to defend Geryon's cattle from thieves and invaders. Though less famous than its underworld sibling, Orthrus represented loyalty twisted into monstrous aggression. The creature also strengthened the recurring theme in Greek mythology that sacred or dangerous places were often protected by terrifying beings impossible for ordinary humans to overcome. Cetus. The monstrous Cetus is remembered in myths connected to Perseus and the princess Andromeda. According to the legend, Queen Cassiopeia boasted that her daughter surpassed the sea nymphs in beauty, angering the gods. As punishment, a devastating sea monster was sent to ravage the coast of Ethiopia until Andromeda was offered as a sacrifice. Ancient legends imagined Cetus as a gigantic sea beast with enormous jaws, armored scales, serpent-like features, and a body vast enough to churn the ocean into violent waves. The creature's origins were likely inspired by fears surrounding storms, whales, and unknown dangers hidden beneath the sea. Ancient sailors often transformed natural maritime disasters into living monsters within their stories. Cetus occupied the role of divine punishment and coastal destroyer. Unlike creatures that acted from hunger alone, this beast represented the wrath of offended gods unleashed upon humanity. Entire kingdoms suffered because of royal arrogance, reinforcing Greek mythology's warnings against pride. The tale reaches its climax when Perseus rescues Andromeda by slaying the monster, turning Cetus into a symbol of heroic triumph over chaos emerging from the sea. The creature was later remembered among the constellations of the night sky. Griffin. The griffin appears in ancient myths and legends tied to distant lands rich with gold and hidden treasures. Greek writers described these creatures as guardians inhabiting remote regions beyond the familiar world, particularly near mountains believed to contain vast riches. Merchants and travelers spread stories about the beast, blending myth with rumors from faraway cultures. The legends said that the griffin possessed the body, hind legs, and tail of a lion combined with the wings, sharp beak, and head of a giant eagle. Its appearance united two of the most powerful animals known to the ancient world. The myth likely originated from older Near Eastern traditions involving hybrid guardian creatures protecting sacred places and royal wealth. Fossils discovered in desert regions may also have contributed to tales about strange lion-like beasts with bird features. Griffins served as protectors of treasure and sacred objects. Their fierce nature made them symbols of vigilance, strength, and divine authority. Unlike many Greek monsters associated purely with destruction, griffins were often respected as noble, yet dangerous guardians. Because the lion represented kingship on land and the eagle ruled the skies, the griffin became a powerful emblem of dominance over both earth and air. Later, civilizations adopted the creature widely in art, heraldry, and mythology. Hippocampus. The hippocampus was closely associated with the domain of Poseidon and appeared in myths involving the oceans, divine chariots, and marine processions. Ancient Greeks believed these extraordinary creatures carried sea gods across the waters and inhabited the deepest regions beneath the waves. Artists and storytellers described the hippocampus as a magnificent creature with the upper body of a horse, while its lower half transformed into the tail of a giant fish or sea serpent. The legend probably developed from humanity's fascination with horses and the unpredictable nature of the sea. Horses were symbols of speed and power, while the ocean represented mystery and untamed force. Combining both created a creature perfectly suited for the realm of Poseidon. Unlike many terrifying monsters in Greek mythology, the hippocampus was not viewed as evil. Instead, it served as a divine companion and guardian of the sea. These beings often appeared pulling the chariots of marine deities through foaming waves. The hippocampus also symbolized harmony between beauty and power within nature. Sailors may have imagined such creatures beneath the surface during storms or while witnessing unusual marine animals moving through the water at great speed. Talos. The bronze giant Talos belonged to the myths surrounding the island of Crete and served as its supernatural defender. According to ancient stories, the giant circled the island several times each day, watching for enemy ships and invaders. Talos is especially remembered in the voyage of Jason and the Argonauts, whose crew encountered the metallic guardian upon reaching Crete. Greek legends describe Talos as an enormous man forged entirely from bronze, towering above ordinary humans with immense strength and a glowing metallic body. One vein filled with divine fluid ran through his form and was sealed at the ankle. The myth may have emerged from fascination with bronze craftsmanship during the ancient age of metalworking. Talos reflected the awe inspired by advanced technology and the idea of artificial life created through divine skill. Rather than functioning as a wild beast, Talos acted as a tireless guardian and living weapon. He defended Crete by hurling massive stones at approaching ships or heating his bronze body until enemies burned upon contact. Talos represented both protection and the dangers of unstoppable force. In many ways, he can be seen as one of mythology's earliest examples of an artificial protector created to obey a single purpose eternally. Python. At the sacred site, later known as Delphi, the monstrous Python once ruled before the arrival of Apollo. Ancient myths tell that the serpent guarded the prophetic sanctuary and the sacred spring connected to the Earth's hidden powers. Apollo eventually confronted and slew the creature, claiming Delphi as his own holy center. Stories described Python as a gigantic serpent or dragon with immense coils, deadly strength and a terrifying presence capable of spreading fear across the region. The legend likely developed from older Earth-based religious traditions centered around caves, serpents, and prophecy. Before Apollo's cult became dominant, the site may have belonged to ancient chthonic worship connected to the powers beneath the ground. Python functioned as both guardian and obstacle. It protected sacred knowledge and ancient powers tied to the earth itself. Apollo's victory symbolized the triumph of Olympian order over older primal forces. Even after the serpent's death, the memory of Python remained important at Delphi. Priests and priestesses continued rituals honoring the site's ancient roots, and the Pythian Games were named after the slain creature, preserving its connection to prophecy and divine mystery. Stymphalian Birds. The Stymphalian birds terrorized the region around Lake Stymphalia, where local people feared to approach the marshes and forests surrounding the water. Their legend became part of the 12 labors of Heracles, who was ordered to drive the creatures away after they devastated the countryside. Ancient tales described the birds as monstrous creatures with metallic feathers, sharp bronze beaks and deadly claws. Some stories claimed they could launch their razor-like feathers as weapons against anyone nearby. The myth may have emerged from fears tied to dangerous swamp regions filled with aggressive birds and disease-ridden environments. Greek storytellers amplified these dangers into supernatural predators capable of overwhelming entire communities. Unlike solitary beasts hiding in caves, the Stymphalian birds attacked in flocks, making them especially terrifying. They served as destroyers of crops, hunters of humans, and symbols of chaos spreading through nature itself. Heracles eventually forced them into the air using a divine rattle given by Athena before shooting many of them down with arrows. Their role in mythology highlighted the threat of relentless, swarming danger. The birds represented fear that could not easily be fought head-on, requiring strategy and divine assistance rather than brute strength alone. Ceryneian Hind. The Ceryneian Hind roamed the forests and mountains sacred to Artemis, making it one of the most revered creatures in Greek mythology. During his third labor, Heracles was commanded to capture the magical animal alive without harming it, a challenge made especially difficult because the hind belonged to the goddess herself. Legends describe the creature as a graceful deer with golden antlers and bronze hooves capable of outrunning arrows and racing across vast distances with supernatural speed. The myth was created by the fact that deer were an important part of hunting cultures and the sacred role animals played in religious worship. By connecting the hind to Artemis, storytellers transformed an elegant forest animal into a divine symbol beyond ordinary human reach. Unlike most creatures encountered by heroes, the Ceryneian hind was not monstrous or destructive. Its role centered on sacredness, purity, and divine protection. Heracles pursued it for an entire year before finally capturing it carefully enough to avoid provoking Artemis's wrath. The creature symbolized the balance between humanity and nature, reminding mortals that not every challenge required violence. In many ways, the hind represented restraint, patience, and respect toward the sacred world of the gods. Gorgons. The Gorgons were feared across Greek mythology as dreadful sisters, whose appearance alone inspired terror. Ancient traditions usually named 3 Gorgons: Stheno, Uriel, and Medusa. They were said to dwell in distant lands near the edge of the world, far from ordinary civilization. Their stories became especially famous through the quest of Perseus, who sought the head of Medusa. Greek legends portrayed the Gorgons as winged female monsters with serpents twisting through their hair, glowing eyes, tusk-like teeth, bronze claws, and faces so horrifying that those who gazed upon them turned instantly to stone. The myth may have evolved from ancient protective symbols known as Gorgonaions, frightening faces painted on temples, armor, and shields to repel evil spirits and enemies. Over time, these images transformed into fully developed mythological beings. The Gorgons served as embodiments of fear, death, and forbidden power. Their petrifying gaze symbolized terror so overwhelming that it destroyed movement and life itself. While Medusa became the most famous due to her mortal nature, all 3 sisters represented the dangerous boundary between mortal existence and supernatural horror. Even after death, Medusa's head continued functioning as a powerful protective weapon in Greek mythology. Hecatoncheires. Long before the Olympian gods ruled the cosmos, the Hecatoncheires emerged during the violent age of the Titans. These colossal beings were born from Gaia and Uranus, alongside the Titans and Cyclops. Their immense power frightened Uranus so greatly that he imprisoned them deep within Tartarus, where they remained until Zeus released them during the Titanomachy. Ancient myths described the Hecatoncheires as gigantic beings possessing 100 arms and 50 heads each, making them among the strangest and most overwhelming creatures in all of Greek mythology. The legend likely arose from attempts to personify unstoppable natural disasters such as earthquakes, storms, and volcanic chaos. Their countless limbs symbolized overwhelming force beyond mortal comprehension. Unlike many monsters that threatened heroes, the Hecatoncheires eventually fought alongside Zeus against the Titans. During the Cosmic War, they hurled enormous boulders with terrifying speed, helping secure victory for the Olympians. Their role in mythology centered on raw destructive strength and cosmic balance. Though monstrous in appearance, they were not inherently evil. Instead, they represented primal power hidden beneath the world itself. After the war, the Hecatoncheires became guardians of Tartarus, ensuring the defeated Titans remained imprisoned forever beneath the earth. Empusa. The terrifying Empusa belonged to the darker corners of Greek mythology and folklore, often associated with witchcraft, night terrors, and the goddess Hecate. Ancient Greeks whispered stories about this creature, lurking in lonely roads and shadowed places after sunset, preying upon unsuspecting travelers. Legends claimed the Empusa could change its appearance at will, often taking the form of a beautiful woman before revealing monstrous features such as flaming hair, sharp fangs, and mismatched legs made from bronze or animal limbs. The myth probably emerged from fears surrounding the unknown dangers of the night, especially for isolated travelers. Stories of seductive supernatural beings existed in many ancient cultures, and the Empusa became Greece's sinister version of that fear. Its role centered on deception and predation. The creature was believed to seduce men before draining their life force or consuming their flesh. Unlike straightforward monsters driven only by violence, the Empusa used charm and illusion as weapons. The tales surrounding the Empusa also served as warnings against temptation and wandering alone after dark. Over time, the creature became closely connected to ghost stories and supernatural horror, influencing later vampire and demon legends throughout European folklore. Lamia. The legend of Lamia combines tragedy, horror, and vengeance within Greek mythology. Ancient stories claimed she was once a beautiful queen loved by Zeus. When Hera discovered the affair, she punished Lamia cruelly, driving her into madness after the loss of her children. Consumed by grief and rage, Lamia transformed into a monstrous being feared across Greece. The story said Lamia appeared as a horrifying hybrid creature, often with the upper body of a woman and the lower half of a serpent. Some legends gave her glowing eyes and sharp claws used to seize victims in the darkness. The myth likely developed from ancient fears surrounding child mortality and nighttime dangers. Parents used tales of Lamia to frighten children into obedience and caution them against wandering alone. Lamia's role in mythology centered on predation and revenge. She was believed to stalk the night, searching for children or young men to devour, driven by the endless grief caused by Hera's curse. Unlike simple monsters born evil, Lamia represented suffering twisted into monstrosity. Over centuries, her legend evolved into one of the ancient world's most feared female demons, influencing later stories about vampires, seductresses, and child-stealing spirits throughout European folklore. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the fascinating world of Greek mythology and the legendary creatures that shaped its stories for centuries. If you enjoyed exploring these legends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which mythological world we should uncover next. Because history, legend, and mystery are far from over. Until next time, yours truly, Mythos, the Historian.